Hello and welcome to our Four Women, Four Decades special on a stress-free festive season. And I think this will be an interesting conversation because this is a very unique and different year. And what new elements that brings to this conversation anyway. I know certainly from my experience, our Christmas at home is going to look very different to what it would usually look like. So anyway, this is a shorter than normal special, but something I hope that you will all take some thoughts to move into December and the festive season with a bit more peace of mind and simplicity, perhaps. So, who wants to start?
I'll kick off happily, and actually maybe thinking about what you just said there, the last word, simplicity, because this does feel very different this year. And actually for me, all of the, gosh, I am so much more relaxed about this time of year than I used to be. And before we started recording, I started talking about that actually I felt older and more grown up when I was younger, when Bea and her brothers were small, and I was saying to the girls that I used to subscribe to Good Housekeeping back in my 20s and my 30s, and now when I think about that, it's like, oh, good Lord. So I was wanting to create the perfect Christmas, whatever that looked like, down to the decorations, the food, everything, table settings, everything. And especially with little ones running around, I didn't find it something that was actually enjoyable, or it was almost like I was thinking I ought to be enjoying this, whereas I found it hugely stressful, hugely stressful. Because of the expectations, because of the comparison. I was comparing myself to flipping magazine. It's not even just a picture in a magazine. That's nuts. And now, so going back to what Natalie said about simplicity, it's like, oh, Zen, yeah, I can do that. Because it's about being together with people. And this year, yeah, that may be on Zoom, but it's still being together. There's something, in fact, I've been listening to a Brené Brown podcast, her latest one, and I can't remember the name of the lady that she's interviewing, but she's written a book about gathering.
Priya Parker.
Yep.
Yeah.
About gathering, and it's so powerful because that's what it is. And I think this is what we do here anyway with the four of us, but also with the community. There is this sense of there's a purpose, the purpose of the gathering. Whereas before, the purpose was perfection, which was always unattainable because I'd set the bar so high. And I was exhausted on Christmas evening.
And it's amazing because as you were talking, I was thinking, God, if we think about whatever touches us on Christmas, it's all about the way we felt and the things that made us laugh and the things that connected us to friends and family and full bellies and too much wine and Baileys. But yeah, this kind of perfection table setting and the looking to the minute detail of things to try and replicate a magazine, that's not what it's about, and it's certainly not the stuff we remember, is it?
And I think it's interesting because it's like that stuff can actually still bring us joy. Like I've been making paper decorations, like those stars behind me. and taking real joy in creating stuff, and that may extend to making the table look nice on Christmas Day. But I think it goes back to, what's your why? Why are you doing something? And actually kind of almost pausing to question that. It's like, am I doing this because I really love taking the time to make a really beautiful space for me and my family? Or is it because I feel I've set this expectation that my house, my space, my table, whatever it is, needs to look a certain way because otherwise I've failed? So it's like, it's, yeah, kind of asking, what's my why?
Yeah.
But also, what is important to me? Is it, again, and it could involve making things look pretty, going out and buying lovely gifts for people, spending time with family. It might look different for different people, and actually some people may well choose to spend it alone because that may bring them peace. So actually it's like doing what matters to us and moving that to the top of our priority list, rather than putting our own or other people's, society's expectations way above that on our to-do list. Because I'm not convinced that brings us joy.
Yeah, I also wonder about and you started mentioning it there, Rebecca, but the shoulds that come out at this time of year. You know, if for example, no matter what the reason of the gathering or the celebration, doesn't have to be Christmas or any type of holiday, but if you're inviting people to where you are, there are so many more, you know, cultures, countries, ways to do that, where the work is shared and the contribution is shared. So I love that in my experience, Christmas is, you know, somebody will host, and that host is in charge of the entire meal for whoever turns up, and making everything look beautiful. And so for the last couple of years, I've been very conscious about, you know, if people are offering to bring stuff, if I am hosting, not that I'm hosting anything this year, but I will take advantage and absolutely enjoy and share all of the work, and where possible, because I personally don't enjoy being in the kitchen for any great length of time. So the idea of cooking any kind of meal for any number of people just makes me curl up a little bit. I'd rather put on a nice hat, drink and talk to you. So this year, you know, I've ordered Christmas food to be delivered to my house so I can chuck it in the oven and sit around the table with whoever I'm allowed to socialize with, probably my kids. But I love that we've got this expectation as hosts that you should be able to put this big feast on for whatever the reason is, and not only do I not want to do that, but I don't enjoy doing that, but it's still an expectation I've had of myself in the past. So as you said, Bea, this year and going forwards, I will put myself in the places around any celebration where I enjoy it the most. I will help when I can help, and also I will kind of seek to share the work so that it's not all on one person. Or if I'm visiting any one of you, I mean, hopefully next Christmas or whenever we'll all be together, but we all arrive with stuff so that the work is, you know, the work is shared. And I just think that's a much more manageable, simple, enjoyable way to do it. Feels like a lot for the whoever's, you know, welcoming or opening their doors.
I wonder whether this year actually is going to be like a great big pause button that's been pressed for people to stop and to consider what they want, what they really want, and how they want to, well, show up. I mean, in life, in the world, but around celebrations like this, to actually give people the opportunity to say, this is how I'd like to do it from now on.
I'm not having to apologize for it.
No, exactly.
in a way it gives us an opportunity, doesn't it? It gives us an opportunity to change the rules, and to kind of be quite explicit about how we'd like to be, and I'm hopeful that, you know, that pause button, as you describe, or it kind of almost like a reset, that we can get back, I say get back to, but almost this sense of presence as opposed to presents, and of course presents are fun, and you know, my daughter would be very disappointed if there wasn't lots of them, but I think in our rush to meet certain demands, and for it to be just so, we sometimes spend the whole day trying to please others and sort everything, and maybe there's an opportunity for things to be a bit of a slower pace this year, and a bit pared back, and in that there's space for people to meet.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Gosh, I can feel my kind of just breathing slowing down just listening to you talk there, Natalie, because it was like, it's almost like, see, I've always loved the run up to Christmas and Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Day was just like some kind of frenzy, and then it passed again. You know, there's, you know, we've got to plan breakfast, and when are we going to have the main meal, and then we've got to, wherever that is, then we've got to have supper, or whenever that is, and it's just like boom, 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 and it's over. Whereas this feels like, and you know, and obviously with younger children like you guys have got, that's different because of their expectation, their excitement, really. But it does feel, particularly this year, will be just a lower, not lower key, but just being present, I think, as you said, and being grateful for that.
I think there's so much power in that, in allowing ourselves to be in the present moment more, because, and again, like whether you're celebrating Christmas or whatever, kind of what it kind of applies to any sort of celebration, that we're constantly, well, certainly I know this to be true for some people, that it's kind of constantly running through like the to-do list and what I need to do next, and making sure that other people are happy, and it's like we're traveling at a million miles an hour and not actually experiencing what we are doing in that moment. So actually, I wonder like what impact that would have to actually allow ourselves and consciously choose to spend more time in the present, and actually how doing that also kind of slows time down as well. But I think in doing so, you also are able to maybe appreciate like the smaller things, rather than it just being a kind of a race or a slog, or just a constant, like a task, a series of tasks in order to get to a destination. And I think that's, I mean, I think generally in life we could all do with spending more time in the present, but I think particularly around times where there is this kind of heightened levels of expectations, excitement, that actually maybe we can find more joy in, even if we kind of did it exactly the same as we have for how many years we've done it previously. That what if we did all of that exactly the same, but were just in the present more? What difference that would make?
You know, it's interesting because what comes to mind is that how many times you hear people say, oh God, I've got all these presents to wrap as well, mums or, you know, whoever saying, and that it's a chore. And it's like, I was just, when you were talking, I was thinking, how mad is that?
Mm.
And it goes back, we spoke about this in our Stuff Can't Make You Happy, about just that consumption or the buying of stuff all the time. You know, we've got this budget and we've got to, you know, and what if we, you know, even with this, just the buying of presents and then the wrapping of presents is done with love. You know, and yes, of course, when you're a mum and you've got a million things to do, that can be, yeah, but it's all right for you because yours are grown up now. But it's that how we can slow time down when we're in the present. And I'm always reminded of this when we have a minute's silence or 2 minutes silence on the 11th of November. How long 2 minutes is when you are silent. When you're, you know, I've had the radio on and it, you know, the bong, and then you've got 2 minutes is a long time because you're in the present. So what if we could do that and actually mindfully, with gratitude, slow everything right down so present wrapping becomes a joy rather than another thing to tick off the list, or peeling the potatoes, or you know, whatever it is, standing in line to get the turkey or whatever you're having. What if we come to that with gratitude as well?
Or if you really hate it, palm it off to someone else and then do something that does bring you joy.
Yeah.
One thing I was thinking about was, how many people do you know, and us included, I'm sure, who say things like, oh, just got to get to the break. You know, I've got to get to that holiday. I know tons and tons of people who will be working throughout, you know, maybe Christmas Eve off, whatever, but work just continues and then we'll just hit a new year. But so many people saying things like, I can't wait to have a few days off over Christmas in December. And then you hear from them that week and they're full of cold, illness, because they've been running to get to the festive season. They've been running to get to this point where they can just, okay, I can relax now. But actually, for some of these people, and I have been in this category often, well, now I have to go and achieve all of these things to make sure I'm conforming, or when I compare myself to others, I'm not falling short, or all of the shoulds, all of that stuff. I then replace one massive task list with my job with another set of stuff that I need to be doing for this, to hit these expectations, or to create what marketing TV is telling me my Christmases should look like, my holidays should look like. And I wonder if this year, in some ways, whilst it's sad for so many people, it's difficult for so many people, particularly with ill people around or elder care stuff, it's harder, of course it is, but I wonder if this year people will just have a bit more space to finish, if there is a day off around this time, to be able to at least finish whatever the work is, and then to not have to fill that day off with either recovering from some kind of burnout or just illness from doing too much, and then we'll have the space to recover entirely rather than having to jump into the next set of things to do. And I hope, well, I'm grateful for that this year, that, you know, I don't have to go anywhere. Will stay home. It will be low key. It will be very simple. And I wonder what impact that will have, you know, for me being able to be in the present with my kids, because I'm not having to worry about who I'm hosting or anything like that. So I'm hoping that will be different for some people, particularly those in, you know, very, very high stress jobs or situations or life.
Yeah. I think what also comes of stress is that we can still get stuff done, even if we have a lot of stuff to do. We can still get that stuff done without needing to be stressed. And I think for me, I mean, we often talk about when our mind's unsettled, or we're kind of our mind is kind of full of unhelpful thoughts and stories that are just kind of whirling around and around, that it's it's a bit like being in a snow globe and you can't really see properly. It's like being in a fog. And that actually those things that are swirling around our heads aren't necessarily the actual tasks that we have to do. It's all the noise we create around it about how we haven't got enough time, how it's can't handle this, how nobody ever helps me with this stuff, and oh, I really resent doing this, that, and the other. That often it's all of that stuff that's kicking up all of that snow that's swirling around in our heads. And actually, I just wonder what it would be like to, again, still have that to-do list, but actually approach it with a settled snow globe. So it's like taking and doing a task or whatever it might be, and just kind of getting it done, but without needing to have all of that extra noise around it. And again, I think being in the present is really, really helpful for doing that, because when we're looking into the future or the past, that's when that just kicks up more snow. And so I think I mean, if you imagine actually imagine kind of going through life in a giant snow globe on wheels, and that actually it's going to be so much easier to drive if it's settled, rather than if you've got a big fan in there that's swirling all this stuff around. You're going to crash all over the place. And that is accessible to us, allowing our minds to settle. It might seem really counterintuitive to do at a time like this, even when there's all this kind of added uncertainty. Obviously in the UK, only 3 households able to meet, that there's all this extra stuff that's going on. But I think allowing ourselves to settle and knowing that we can do that, I think is hugely helpful. Because actually all that stuff that we thought was so kind of time consuming and stressful, it doesn't need to be. That actually we can get through all that stuff probably in a lot quicker time than we realized, because we're not fighting this extra battle on top of it.
Oh,
yeah. It's like all the judgments we have, all the stories we create, all the noise that we don't even realize half the time we're carrying around. But it's really exhausting when we do. And I think there's a massive key around acceptance here. You know, accepting that whatever you need to do, we'll do it with more ease and grace if we just have less thinking about it. Not whether it's good or bad, or someone else should be doing it, or I always get lumbered with this, or I haven't got enough time for this. All this internal commentary on whether it's good, bad, or otherwise weighs us down, and it kicks up the snow, as you so beautifully described, Bea. But you know, I think a lot of us don't even realize we're doing it. We're so used to having that noise, so used to not having that extra space. But the trick is what I've learned to just become a bit more savvy to seeing the, you know, those judgments and stories I create. And sometimes I see them and sometimes I don't. But when I do spot them, it's like a bit poof. I realize, okay, well, that's kind of hampering my experience of this in this moment.
Mine was the martyr. That was running in my head all the time. I mean, I'm sure B is very aware of the martyr that I was when she was growing up. Don't worry, I'll do it, you know, said in that tone, which was weighty for everyone, not just for me, but for everyone. And the minute I saw that and was, you know, vulnerable enough to see that I was creating that martyr and let her go, that everybody's life was easier, including my own. Because that's, again, there's that judgment all the time. And letting that go, you know?
It's so interesting because I think what popped into my head was this idea that we're allowed to break character. And that I think we have so many, I mean, we talk about wearing different masks throughout our life, and we might put on a different mask for different situations when we're around different people, and then people can kind of start to expect that of us, that we are this kind of person when we are in a work environment, we're this kind of person when we're around our parents, we're this kind of person when we're around our friends. But actually, and so it's almost like sometimes we almost kind of start living up to that. So whether that's the martyr or the person that just lies on the sofa and does absolutely nothing, that people and ourselves expect that, and then we start to live up to that. And I think often we don't even realize it. And even when it comes to realizing it, this idea of sort of breaking character doesn't feel like an option. It's like, but this is who I am. Well, this is who I've always been. This is how I've always acted and behaved. But actually, we can let go of that. And if that throws other people, then so be it. If you've cooked a spectacular meal every year and the house looks immaculate and beautiful and it's kind of perfect, and this year you just want to walk around in your PJs and order takeaway, if other people are shocked, like, let them be shocked. Tell them to get in the kitchen. I think, like, we have, again, like going back to this idea that we have a choice in the matter. And I think with all of this stuff, whether it's the masks, whether it's the stories and the beliefs, it's like the most important part, I think, is just becoming aware of that. And it's like pulling it up from the unconscious to the conscious. Because once we know what's going on, we can then make a decision about whether or not it's helpful and whether or not it serves us anymore. And then we can choose to let it go or keep it. But I think I don't know, I just quite like that idea of just freaking people out by breaking character.
Do you know what was coming to mind when you were talking about that? Do you remember Mrs. Doubtfire? Do you remember the film Mrs. Doubtfire?
Yeah.
At the end, when he was in the restaurant and he was drinking and he was having to become Mrs. Doubtfire, and then he was the dad, and then he was, and the two people were beginning to merge. And it's like, it's such an effort to keep that mask up, isn't it? That again, maybe this is the opportunity to reset. I love that word that you said, Natalie, to rather than pause, to reset. What And again, and you know, and we talk about this a lot. Does it feel warm or does it feel cold? Yeah. It's like, let's use, what if we use this year as that opportunity to do that? Because it is what it is this year, all right? We're all restricted in some way. We can't be with everybody that we want to be. I mean, we were going to be 9 households. If we as a family got together, my family, we would be 9 households, and that's not possible this year. So it is what it is. We can scream and shout and rage and have our opinions and whatever, but actually that's what it is right now. So that's what we're dealing with. So how can we drop the noise, settle the snow globe, as B beautifully says, and be in the moment, take this time, this holiday time to stop, to take stock, and to enjoy the little things, as you say. That's the important things, being grateful for that.
Oh wow, and to make really conscious choices around what and how it's going to go, and let go of expecting it to go a certain way. I love that idea of breaking character, and if that's what I've always, you know, that's who I am, that's what they're expecting, so I need to carry that on. It's like the identity you step into, the character you step into, and then continue to assume as the years go by. But when you were saying it, I was like, I remember as a little girl putting crosses in the bottom of sprouts. I don't, right? And so as B was talking, I'm thinking, do we even actually have to do that to cook sprouts? Or did some brilliant grandmother somewhere just go, get the kids, we'll just tell them to put the crosses in to keep them busy for an hour? And now I'm thinking, have I wasted many a Christmas as a little girl just doing these really neat crosses? Because I've not done that as a grown-up. And so I'm also thinking, not only reflecting on breaking character, but also, what other stuff are we doing just because it's always been done before that maybe we don't need to do either? Like, maybe if I wanted to cook sprouts, not that I do like sprouts, but maybe we can also look at just the pattern and the traditions, and not to get rid of things that are really important to you, but actually there might be sentimental things that you're bringing from, you know, previous generations that maybe we don't need to, you know, what's useful and what's lovely for us, rather than, well, I have to do that because it's always been done and now the person who did it has died, so I have to continue forever. We don't have to be as hemmed in by what's gone before, I think.
And one of those, thinking of traditions, I used to love doing an advent calendar with the children when they were little. This was before they were all chocolate laden, and I used to, something I made that had little pockets with, you know, all the 24 kind of pockets, and sometimes there'd be a little treat, but sometimes it was a little note to them to say, help your brother today, be nice to somebody today, you know. Aww. You know, little things like that. I don't know whether they ever appreciated it, but it was, why didn't get chocolate? My friend gets chocolate.
You're getting a lot of pencil sharpeners.
A lot of pencil sharpeners. You were probably nicking your brothers, were you? But what it kind of, in, because of, I feel the pace is different this year, is something that B and I are doing for recovery from within. So that's, if you've not watched any of our videos before, B and I work together supporting people with eating disorders. So I've created for our social media an advent calendar of self-nourishment. And so we're just a couple of days in, but each day there's something that helps you look inward. And you are welcome to join us. If you kind of, we'll put the links in the below the video on YouTube. But already I've had, even a couple of days in, already people are saying, I'm really loving this already. Because there's pause built into it, I think, as well. Gratitude built into it. Being in the present built into it. especially when, you know, if we're talking about eating disorders and stuff, this time of year is not great, when the focus is on food and everybody being together and routines are different. But it's like, let's focus on, as Bea said earlier, the little things. And I think that's really helpful. And I'm hoping that people find that helpful. Mm.
This festive season, I want to focus on being really kind to myself. It's kind of my mini revolution.
Mm.
The thing is, it shouldn't be a revolution.
No, but I think, you know, I'm just reflecting now, and I think I've probably pushed through things and put others always in front of my own needs. And not that that will stop entirely, but I think actually,
Yeah,
I think I can draw a line more and say no more and delegate more, share more out, and be outrageously kind to myself.
Outrageously kind.
Lovely.
It's so interesting, Natalie, because the word revolution came up with a client this week. How funny. That it is revolutionary to be kind to ourselves. Wow.
I mean, that's
Mine is
redefining New Year's resolutions. That's a whole other talk.
Yeah.
That is a whole other talk. Sorry, Natalie, you just made me think about that. And mine would be, I feel often at this time of year, particularly Christmas Day, aware of the time. So there'll be kind of frenzy, children related stuff in the morning, and then, oh, well, let's clean up a bit because this meal is next, and let's move that out the way because this thing is next. And actually my goal intention this year is to just stay on the floor with them longer and keep everything out longer and sit in the mess for as long as it takes and play and not get up, because as I've said, the food's going to go in the oven without me doing anything to it. I won't be putting crosses and sprouts. So I'm just going to play for longer. And I'm so looking forward to that.
Oh, stay in the mess for longer.
Yeah. I mean, I will wash myself and the children, but I'm going to stay on that floor, you know, pajamas on, toys out. Let's enjoy the time. Yeah. Thank you for making me think about that.
I think that's a nice place for us to stop for this evening.
Lovely.
Thank you so much for everyone who is watching. I hope you found that helpful. I think as always, you can probably tell that we've learned things from each other this evening as well. But I think some of those key things around us noticing the expectations and the stories and the comparisons and all of that snow that might be swirling around, that actually we can slow down the pace and focus on what's important to us and what we want rather than what we feel like we should be doing. And I think that in itself can be transformational. So wishing everyone a festive season this December, and we will see you in the new year.